Does anyone remember the anime Sailor Moon? I did. The show ran for 5 seasons, and I loved it as a little girl at the time. I had everything I could find and knew everything I could during my child times. I first saw the anime when I was 9, and I instantly fell in love with it. They all had different names, my favorite is being Season 5, aka Sailor Stars. However, back in the 1990s, the producers and writers were going to start a Season 5 a little differently than you have seen. Instead of using Galaxia as the antagonist, the show would bring back the antagonist of Season 1, Queen Beryl. One day, in 2010, I was cleaning the attic of my house when I tripped over a VHS tape I never saw before. It was just labeled Queen Beryl and was on dark grey marker. I was curious and popped the tape in my old VCR. The second I popped it in, I heard the intro, but it looked odd. The quality was bad, like it was from a late 60s to early 80s movie, and the parts that were supposed to have Galaxia were replaced with Queen Beryl from Season 1. The episode was called Queen Beryl's Wicked Return. I was confused, but this episode looked unfinished, so I wanted to see it. The episode starts like the aired episode, The Nightmare Returns, but for some reason the music was in reverse and very distorted. Though after the part where Rini, Sailor Minimoon, says she's going back to the future, the screen went black for 20 seconds and it cut to the Negaverse. Queen Beryl was there, she looked normal, but her eyes were very realistic, and she said, "Ha ha ha, do the Sailor Scouts really think I'm dead? Well, my time of revenge has come, and I will make Sailor Moon look stupider than she looks." Then the screen went black again, but with text saying, "The next morning, Serena, Sailor Moon, wakes up only for Sailor Jupiter, Lita, to be there." She looked worried and said something to Sailor Moon, but Jupiter was speaking Swedish, so I had no idea what she was saying. Then Sailor Moon replied with, "Really, show me?" Then Sailor Jupiter got knocked out by a laser. Serena saw Queen Beryl in shock, and she had those very realistic eyes from before. She said, well, if it isn't Serena, don't you realize I was still alive this whole time? I bet you didn't." Serena said, "Wait, how come you're still alive?" It then cut to a flashback to the final battle of Season 1, in which it was black and white. Then Queen Beryl said, "As you can see, you were fighting a clone of me, and besides, I did not have those powers from before. Anyways, time for revenge." Serena fought Beryl, but unfortunately was losing badly. Then Mina, Sailor Venus, came out of nowhere, and for a split second there was an image I could rarely make out, because it went by too fast for me to completely make out. But I believe it looked like it was in detail. The image, from what I believe, was a hyper-realistic image of Mina standing in a blood-red background, in which she had no eyes, leaving them black holes. She was also missing her mouth, was holding a teddy bear and was covered in realistic bloodstains. At the bottom there was Russian text saying, "The dead has risen, Satan is our leader, we hate God." Mina then kept punching Queen Beryl multiple times for 5 minutes. Then Beryl kicked Mina very hard and was knocked out and weak, and then Serena and Mina started running away. Queen Beryl chased them into an unknown yard shelter and said, "Poor Mina and Serena, all beaten up and too weak to fight. My seed for this revenge has finally come. Now die." Beryl pulled out a knife and stabbed Serena and Mina violently for at least 40 seconds. After that, it showed Serena and Mina dead as Queen Beryl said, "I'm glad it ended up like this." She teleported out of the yard shelter. The last minute of the episode showed Lita lying in Serena's bed and said, "Tell everyone about this." Then the credits rolled, with the music in reverse, and had a picture of Serena and Mina's dead bodies on the background. The credits were Portuguese, and the tape ended. I was shocked from what I saw, and I was sleepless for 6 weeks. While I still love Sailor Moon, this episode nearly changed everything I loved about it. I made sure to not watch episodes of Sailor Moon that have blood and killing in them. In any city, in any country, you can walk into the nearest McDonald's and order 5-star cuisine at absolutely sensational prices. Really, It's not a bad gig, but more importantly, something tragic happened to me at McDonald's 5 years ago that changed my life for the worse and left my jaw shattered in several pieces. It all started when I was sitting down at a table and enjoying a Big Mac to myself because I had no friends. My father was just mad about McDonald's and used to dress up like Ronald McDonald because it turned my mother on, but he left us for the late night cashier at the local Mickey D's when I was just a little wee lad. I was playing my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan on my Nintendo Game Boy when suddenly I heard a knock on the door. "Come in," I shouted, as if I owned the McDonald's. I didn't, but more importantly, I was terrified tortellini about what I saw when I looked up from my grey and greenscale dot matrix screen. It was Big Bird. At first I thought it was a guy in a suit, but no, it was him in the flesh. I mean, feathers. I ran up to him and hugged his legs and asked him what he was doing so far away from Sesame Street. "Birdseed milkshake," he replied in a depressed and monotonous voice after sighing. I asked him why he didn't just go to Mr. Hopper's store, and he told me that ever since Mr. Hopper died and he learned about death, he felt that he no longer belonged to Sesame Street and was in need of new friends. I told him he could be my friend, and then I shrieked in horror when I realized that no good deed does go unpunished after all. Big Bird opened his naughty yellow beak, and inside there was nothing but jagged, razor-like teeth of blood, guts, gore, sinew, tartar sauce, and calculus splattered all over them. Upon closer inspection, I wailed like a banshee again. Those weren't just razor-like teeth, they were razors. "Takes one to know one," Big Bird muttered as he waddled over to the counter like a penguin with fetal alcohol syndrome. I learned that term from a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode I watched years ago. As scared as I was, and uncertain if I should call 911, or the Pest Control Society, or the local dog catcher if he also caught anthropomorphic aviaries, my eyes were fixed on Big Bird himself. Would he also be ordering a Big Mac? What about Chicken McNuggets? If he ordered those, wouldn't that make him a cannibal? Then again, he was a yellow songbird or a canary if I recall correctly. Did you know that miners send canaries into mines to potentially die to check if it's poisonous down there? They certainly didn't have any birdseed milkshakes. "Hi, how may I help you?" The orange-haired, poch-marked teenage boy behind the register asked the monstrous creature who once taught me about the alphabet and how to share with strangers of any color, football team, or sexual identity. "Birdseed milkshake." It turned out that Big Bird in his fallen state had still remembered that it was sinful to lie. Good. "We don't have any of those here, sir," the $5.15 an hour employee responded with. "Could I get you something else?" It was then that I literally lost my shit, because Big Bird got really pissed off and wrapped his feathery fingers, or webs, or whatever you call them for birds, around the scholarly gentleman's throat. I was sitting close enough that even though Big Bird was whispering menacingly, I could still make out what he said. He leaned into the boy's face and I threw up my Arch Deluxe. I ordered 2 burgers that day because I used to be fat. "Amogus," Big Bird whispered slowly. He proceeded to pull his feathery winged bird hand into a pocket. I guess birds have pockets, or at least anthropomorphic canary men do, and pulled out 2 AA batteries. The young man, clearly watching his life flash before his youthful virgin eyes, let out an answer. He muttered. Big Bird let him go so that he could speak proper English. "We used to have a console here, but we got rid of it very recently, sir." Yes, McDonald's used to host video game consoles, such as the Nintendo GameCube, so that you can play Super Mario Sunshine while taunting the other children because the fast food restaurant GameCube was now your GameCube, and they'd always be from poor parents who sent them to public school because they didn't truly love them. Big Bird turned around. As the high school dropout customer service representative caught his breath and stuttered off to the fry cook area, dazed and confused. I know for a fact that he smokes pot during his lunch breaks. I vomited up at least a couple and a half French fries after what happened next happened. Big Bird's eyes had turned pitch black. His entire body had become pixelated like a distorted electronic nightmare, and the rest of the restaurant turned black. It was me sitting at an invisible table, Big Bird standing right near me, and staring into my soul like a rabid dog eyeing its next door neighbor's leg as mutton. And I could still see my Game Boy for some reason. In the blink of an instant, Big Bird ran up to me in supersonic, superhuman speed, and ripped my Game Boy straight out of my hands. I cried, but Big Bird didn't give a shit. Big Bird plopped 2 AA batteries into my Game Boy. This was after he ripped open the back cover of my Game Boy and stuck my 2 AA batteries up his nose. "See, I'm a walrus now," Big Bird said in his usual Big Bird voice as the room slowly faded back into the way it was before. I figured everything was alright now, given that Big Bird was happily rotating between the A and B buttons and the control pad and playing what I assumed was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Fall of the Foot Clan on my Nintendo Game Boy. It was the shock of my life when he handed back my portable gaming console 15 minutes later, and I checked the cartridge label on the back. Amogus. My jaw unhinged. I rolled around on the floor in spastic motions, arms and legs flailing, as the paramedics arrived, put me on a stretcher, and hauled me off into the ambulance. One of those bastards stole my Game Boy. I had always prided myself on being 2 things: rather fearless and rather good at games. Any game I owned was guaranteed to have been completed on hard mode, no matter what the time span took to reach the end. I would charge headfirst into a fight and had successfully disarmed an attacker who would have otherwise stabbed me. I prided myself on these 2 things. I also prided myself on my Toho achievements. To those who haven't played Toho games, they are a series of vertical shooters where you dodge bullets whilst firing your own to progress through 7 increasingly difficult stages, with a boss at each stage. There are nearly 20 games in total for the entire saga. I had beaten all of the Toho games, including the PC 98 games. You name it, I had cleared it, on both hard and lunatic modes. Subterranean Animism, Mystic Square, Double Spoiler, all that were in my Toho folder were cleared. You can imagine my excitement when, out of the blue, my friend, let's call him A, tells me they found the demo for the newest game, Toho 14, even kindly enough providing a download link from RapidShare. Legit enough, right? Aside from I hadn't seen users freaking out on Tumblr, nor an official announcement on the Toho wiki. None of that penetrated my thick skull, as I downloaded the file though. After an hour and a half of total download, unzip and install time, the folder sat innocently on my desktop. Toho 14. This was nothing new. I only named the folders for my games with the English name. As this was a demo, there was no English name. However, by this point the time had gone to 10 PM, and college beckoned in the morning for a 6 AM start. I shut down my laptop and readied myself for bed, barely drifting off into a fitful, dreamless sleep. When I awoke, there was still murky, residual darkness outside, viewable via the window opposite my bed. Flipping open the mobile phone I keep on my bedside table, the screen illuminated the time, blinding into my dark habituated eyes. 4:44 AM. With a groan, I rolled over back onto the pillow, but to no avail. I flipped and rolled for seemingly hours with no success of sleeping. Giving in, I dragged myself out of bed for a shower and some tea, a ritual I had recently accustomed myself to. By 5:59 AM, I had eaten, showered, and was in the process of blow-drying my hair before dressing, when the flashing blue light of my laptop caught my attention. Strange, I'd switched it off the night before. Giving my newly dried hair a shake and drag through with a flat brush, I toggled the touchpad off the laptop, only to find I hadn't pressed the off option when switching off last night. No big deal. It meant I could fool around for a bit until 6:30, when I had to leave for the bus to college. It meant that, surprise surprise, I could give the new Toho installment a whirl before form. Pulling a dress over my newly brushed hair and panties under the dress, I executed the file inside the folder. Strangely enough, named in boxes where it would usually be named something along the lines of TH14 demo. However, I assumed it to be the original Japanese text that my tottering, unupdated laptop couldn't read, and shrugged it off as I settled back down into the seat in front of the screen, black as the executable file booted itself up. In seconds, the title screen was up, amazingly similar to the title screens from 10 Desires, but with no sound. I sighed, thinking it was an error in patching that deleted the music file. I'd had this problem with Perfect Cherry Blossom. Starting up a new game, I was pleasantly surprised to find new playable characters. Flandre, Nue, Komachi and Utsuo. I was even happier to see that these playable characters were what most fans would consider fairly strong characters, especially Utsuo and Flandre. Now, Nue had always been a favorite of mine, so my directional pad headed straight for her option. Hitting the Z button, however, yielded no result aside from a loud screech from my laptop. Stupid thing, I thought. It must have damaged the game file. I got the same result from Flandre and Utsuho, leaving me with little hope that Komachi would work. Amazingly, her option agreed with my laptop and stage 1 fired up. But again, there was no music. The normally vibrant background colors were dulled, boringly enough. However, when playing FPS games, my laptop tended to sometimes mess with colors, so I paid little heed. There were also no bullets to dodge, no fairies appeared, no mid-boss, only small cloud-like enemies floating across the screen. The minute I launched an attack on them though, they fled, leaving a black box behind instead of the usual red power-ups or green point boxes. Upon collecting these, a strange thing happened. After I collected 10 of these boxes, the screen faded to black, making the loudest static noise ever. Jumping halfway out of my skin at the unexpected noise, I simply held down the power switch to turn my laptop off. Catching sight of my clock on the wall, the time read 6:25. Probably time for me to go. College awaited me. When I came home that night, I started up Touhou 14 again, hoping that cool-off time would improve the game. This time there was music for the title screen. However, it wasn't a Zune type sound. It was more several title themes all played over each other. I took it as another quirk of the damage my laptop could inflict on games. This time, however, there was no character select after the title screen. There were no controls at all. We were all taken over by the computer, as though in demo mode. It controlled itself as it moved Komachi across the screen, attacking all that came in her path in a rather uncharacteristic way of Komachi. In another strange move, all enemies fled her. The background looked rather like the inside of Yukari's Gap, as shown in the fighter games like Skull by the Rhapsody, extending so far that the bomb, life and power counters were hidden. The next shock came when the boss of the level showed up. A very stressed looking Shiki appears, warning Komachi to turn back. Not too surprising since there was no aforementioned incident and Komachi has a job to do, right? Before any back and forth could occur between the characters, as is the norm, the game launched Komachi forward, causing her scythe to cleave the boss in half. I sat staring, dumbfounded, at the screen as blood seeped from the half pixels, spreading over the screen until the gap-like background was obscured by red. The game handed control back to me. I shook as I carried on to level 2, confronted by some fleeing fairies. Again, they dropped black boxes. However, this time, there was no static sound. I was transported directly to stage 2, a setting that resembled the flowing lava of subterranean animals in stage 6. This time, a visibly irritated and fearful Rin appears, warning Komachi that to go deeper is a danger even she wouldn't approach. Komachi's control was taken from me at this point. Again, she was launched into the Kasha, slicing the girl's head from her shoulders. My trembling increased as a split flame appeared on my screen long enough to print screen art. Upon minimizing of the game and pasting of the screenshot into MS Paint, the frame appeared to be that of what looked like a young cosplayer, about 14 years old, dressed as Flandre. The cosplay was cut open shoddily down the front, exposing her, with the shards she used to decorate her wings with impaling her chest and abdomen, and what seemed to be broken bones sticking out of her right arm. Blood took up most of the shot. Bile started to rise in my throat, as I realized just what kind of game this was. I deleted the image and tried to exit the game, but there was no exit command. Alt F4 would not work. The laptop would not turn off. The game didn't show as being run on Task Manager. On the contrary, it showed only critical processes running. I was faced with no choice but to finish the game. The format carried on as aforementioned for 5 more horrible levels. A myriad of different characters being slaughtered by what should have been a fairly easygoing ferrywoman. All 3 of the mischievous fairy trio at once. Alice Murgatroyd, Aya, and Momiji in the same level. Futo, Tojiko, and Miko all at once. And the last level, Nue and Mamizo. My 2 favorites out of the whole game were dismembered before my eyes, even though they were only pixels. As the game carried on, the split frames appeared for longer amounts of time, making sure I could see the atrocities. All Toho cosplayers. After the Flandre, then a Byakuren, with throat slit, and Utsuhu, broken bones poking out from every limb and the neck at a sick angle. A Remilia, with her intestines removed and wrapped tightly around her neck, acting as a noose. A Yuyuko with hands, feet, eyes and head cleaved from the body. A Yuka impaled through the chest with several knives. A Hina, whose face, legs and arms were badly charred, as well as a portion of the dress and some of the wig. The one similarity, aside from the complete lifelessness and youth of the girls, whose ages ranged from around 9 through 16, was that the clothes were all shoddily cut open down the front, exposing far more of the deceased girls that should have been shown. At the end of the game, the agonizingly slow blacking out of the image of the Hina cosplayer, came the credits, without any credits. No words rolled on the screen, only blackness, until where the usual end of the game would be. And special thanks to you. I'm still not sure how fully the experience has affected me, but I certainly no longer pride myself on fearlessness. Anything red makes me vomit. Anything Toho makes me faint. I can't hear the original soundtracks of any of the games without descending into a debilitating panic attack. I dream about the murdered girls, suffer flashbacks to their dead eyes. The police took away my laptop to search the file, but it must have done something to itself. The entire motherboard was completely useless, melted and corrupted before saving. The download link has disappeared from RapidShare. I see my therapist twice a week. She says I have post-traumatic stress disorder. All I know is that I can see those dead faces, and will until I die. Okay, where to begin? I suppose the beginning would be fitting. My name is Jacob. I'm a normal, carefree Pokemon fan. A few months ago, I went to this new pawn shop that opened up in my town. It was named, if my memory is correct, Gold, Silver and Games Pawn. Not the best name, I know. I went there and was looking through their stock when something struck my eye. It was Pokemon Gold. It looked like it was in pretty good condition. Except here's the weird thing. The game's sticker had a shadow of a Chikorita on it. Strange, right? I simply shrugged it off at the time and bought the game. $5. It's a good deal, right? I went home and got out my Game Boy Color, popped that game in and turned it on. I suddenly jumped up when I heard this strange music. No, it wasn't Lavender Town. It was a bunch of loud, annoying keys randomly put together. I quickly turned the volume off and started the game. I was planning on it having no saves, but to my surprise it had one. Oil. I asked out loud, what the fuck is that type of name? I didn't like the name, but I started it, and I was at somewhere. It just had question mark as the name, and it was surrounded by trees. Again, I shrugged it off. I opened up the options and went to Pokemon, and to my surprise yet again, I found a Chikorita in it. Its name was Oil. It was level gibberish. Yes, gibberish. It just had random dots. I selected it and I nearly shat a brick. Chikorita's eyes were bleeding oil and so was its mouth. Underneath it was a bottle catching the disgusting gunk. I had to keep myself from puking. I literally screamed, what type of sick fuck would make this? I left the screen and went to items. Even creepier, all the items were bottles of oil. I nearly puked again. When I went back to the overworld, I started walking up, or should I say, the player did. I tried to make him stop, but he kept walking. A cutscene was triggered. Why did you do this to me? The player looked around. I did nothing to you. The player stopped. Then the player began going nuts on screen, running around everywhere, topsy-turvy. Then he stopped and seemed to fall with red pixels forming around his body, but the red quickly turned black. Next thing I know, oil is right beside the player. You made me suffer. Now you must as well. Night, night, Jacob. I jumped and screamed, how the fuck do you know my name? Then my game turned off and wouldn't work no matter what I did. I pulled the cartridge out and looked at the insides. They were covered in oil. I booted up my copy of Animal Crossing New Horizons yesterday at exactly 11:32 PM for some night fishing and maybe even some hardcore decoration, when a notification popped up on my Nintendo Switch system telling me that I have reached 40,000 hours of gameplay on Animal Crossing New Horizons. The game immediately crashed, and I restarted, hand on my chin and one eyebrow raised. I was greeted by Isabel, but something was off. She had a crack pipe on her table, and she smiled a realistic grin, looking directly at me through my Nintendo Switch system's touchscreen. She then uttered, "You shit. You cunt. You've got nothing on me, you coward. You pussy. You don't even smoke crack. What are you gonna do? Cry? Call for mommy? Shit and piss your pants? Maybe even puke your baby food? I'm gonna beat your ass after I'm done banging the new villager in town. Her name's Jo. Jo Mama. You fucking bug-catching bitch. Get out of my face." And then the game closed itself. Feeling shaken, I decided to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I joined an online race, and the racer was using Isabel as their character. I felt uneasy, but brushed it off as coincidence. Suddenly, Isabel passed by my side on that Shy Guy 4 section, where they're all like, "Wah, wow, wah, wow, wah, wow." But every single one of the Super Mario franchise Shy Guys was calling me a coward. And Isabel, instead of honking, looked at me and said, "Hey, I'm driving here, you cunt," disappearing into the Shy Guys waterfall. I turned off my Nintendo Switch system and haven't booted it up again. I have nightmares with her ghastly gibberish telling me I'm a coward and a cunt. Do not play Animal Crossing New Horizons after 40,000 hours of gameplay. Better, do not play Animal Crossing New Horizons at all. Only horror awaits you and your Nintendo Switch system. My name is Bob Boberson. Something like that. I don't know. I'm bad at coming up with names. I mean, that is totally my real name. Anyways, I am a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. And one day, I went to my local GameStop and saw they had a new Ninja Turtles game called Ninja Turtles 666 Death, Stab, Kill, Blood. I bought it despite the insane and somewhat idiotic name. I put it into my Wii, and when I started it up, there was a loud voice that said "Die." I ignored it and kept playing because YOLO. I began playing and saw there was already one file. It said 666 Stab, Kill, Die, Fire, Death, Demon. I will kill you and drink your blood. Death, death, die, death. I started up the file and saw I was playing as Van Gogh. You know, the fifth turtle. His mask is beige. He is totally not a nerdy anime DeviantArt original character if that's what you're thinking. That's dumb. Only stupid hipsters do that. Van Gogh is totally real. I saw Van Gogh was on fire and dying, and realistic blood was shooting out of his mouth like barf. I kept playing until a jump scare happened of Sonic the Hedgehog with completely black eyes dripping hyper-realistic blood. I peed myself and had a kidney failure. After tons of intensive care at the hospital, I went back home to play the game. I put the disc into my NES, and as it started up, there was another jump scare. This time with a turtle-like skull with blood on it. I turned off the game and took out the disc and lit it on fire. A while later, I heard a knock on my door, and my extremely fat, shirtless, bearded mailman named Bert threw a disc at me and disappeared in a puff of smoke. I looked at Bert's disc and saw that it was the Ninja Turtle game from before. I screamed. I put the cartridge on my Xbox 360 and started up the game and saw that there was another file, simply titled Bert. I started Bert's file, but saw I was playing as Leonardo. Oh, he's not Van Gogh. As I walked around, I saw the other turtles, all dead, except for Van Gogh, who was flying around with demonic wings and hyper-realistic blood dripping from his eyes. Van Gogh swooped down and cut off Leonardo's head with a sword. Hyper-realistic blood shot out everywhere, and Van Gogh shouted, "I am God." The screen went to black, and I sighed with relief. Suddenly, a giant green turtle fist came crashing through the TV screen and hit me in the face, punching my head right off my body, and now I am dead, and my ghost wrote this. You are listening to a story by a ghost, and I am haunting you. Look out the window. I am outside your house watching you right now. Hello, my name is Hitoshi. I'm white, but moved to Japan and have been learning Japanese from Rosetta Stone for 2 weeks, and I can fluently speak the amazing language of Japanese. Like most people online, I'm a proud weeaboo. I love anime with all my heart and own body pillows of all my favorite Sugoi desu kawaii waifus, especially my beloved Makima. But there's one anime I will never watch again. The anime in question is Watamote, or, no matter how I look at it, it's you guys' fault I'm not popular. It centers around Tomoko Kuroki, a high school student who has dreams of being popular but struggles with severe social anxiety. I love this anime mainly because of how relatable Tomoko is, since I can't even look a waifu in the face without feeling embarrassed and thinking about how much of a baka I am. Anyway, I will never watch Watamote again after this incident. I was browsing online through my go-to free anime sites when I found Watamote. I figured I'd give it a rewatch, since it had been years since I watched it in full. I sat down with my Mountain Dew, Cheetos and McDonald's large combo to watch it, since that's my go-to meal for watching old anime I used to love. I noticed there were 13 episodes plus the OVA. Weird. Watamote only has 12 episodes and an OVA. Is this some kind of hidden episode? I thought. Little did I know, my love for Watamote would be completely destroyed. The episode's title was, "Since I'm not popular, I'll commit suicide." I was shocked. What kind of episode title is that? I know Watamote had edgy themes and even talked about suicide before. This is ludicrous. However, out of curiosity, I decided to watch it. The episode opened normally and showed Tomoko quietly sitting in the back of her classroom as usual. Watching all the other students chat and laugh, Tomoko began to feel envy and hopelessness rather than anger and hatred. She realized right then that she didn't hate those people because of who they were. She hated them because she was jealous. She stood up and left the classroom. Everyone was confused. She started slowly walking down the halls, crying uncontrollably. The crying sounded too real to be a voice acting though. It sounded like it was real crying. Tomoko ran home, and her mother questioned what she was doing home so early. She explained that she started crying in the middle of class and had to come home. Tears ran down Tomoko's cheeks as she spoke. "I wish I had what they had," she said, tearfully. Her mother hugged her and tried to comfort her, and shortly after, Tomoki, Tomoko's brother, came home. He immediately went up to his room, noticing Tomoko crying. Tomoko later went upstairs and knocked on Tomoko's door. Tomoko was annoyed as usual, not wanting to deal with her again, but Tomoko begged him to let her talk to him. He reluctantly agreed and opened his door. Tomoko, still crying uncontrollably, asked him, "How do you do it? How are you so much better than I will ever be? It's not fair." Tomoko sounded calmer than usual, but obviously sadder. Tomoki realized just how much she'd been dealing with and tried his best to comfort her. Tomoko thought the sudden love and comfort was all fake and cussed him out. She left the room, still sobbing. Later that night, Tomoko was seen in her room, still crying. She takes a long rope and proceeds to tie a noose, hanging herself. Tomoko is the first to find her corpse, as he heard weird noises coming from her room. He rushes over to try and save her, but it was too late. Tomoko was dead. Tomoki began crying and the episode faded to black. It then showed a picture of Tomoko with missing eyes and no mouth. Static covered the whole screen faintly, and the episode ended. My computer's wallpaper suddenly changed to a disturbing picture of Tomoko, and the Watamote ending song was played super slowly and distorted through my speakers. Suddenly, a notepad document opened on my desktop. It read, "You did this to me. You did this to me, Hitoshi." She used my disgusting English name though. "You made me do it." Signed, Tomoko Kuroki. I was heartbroken. I felt the guilt of taking Tomoko's life and proceeded to contemplate taking my own as punishment. I started crying and apologized to Tomoko several times. My PC blue screened and rebooted. Suddenly, all the strange sounds and imagery were gone. I immediately took my Tomoko figure out of its jar and tossed it into the trash. I made a promise to myself never to watch another Watamote episode ever again. When I went back to the site to look for another anime to watch, I noticed that Watamote had gone back down to 12 episodes plus the OVA. I felt conflicted, since on one hand the episode was gone, but on the other, was it there to begin with? If it was, then who made it? Who put it there? I was disgusted even thinking about it, and had to watch some My Hero Academia to get my mind off of it. I fucking hate My Hero Academia though, so I destroyed my PC when I started playing. Fuck My Hero. But I loved Watamote for what it brought me. And also hated for putting me through the torture of watching that episode. Also for forcing me to watch My Hero Academia. Sayonara, Hitoshi, out. It was a normal, nuclear winter afternoon, and I was just playing Need for Speed Most Wanted. I'm a total and complete Need for Speed fan, just like every human being ever. And if you aren't, you're a communist. I've played every single Need for Speed game ever, except for one, Need for Speed Carbon. I need this game so badly, but I can't seem to find a copy of it anywhere. My local game store still sells copies of this game, but I was way too lazy to go there, so I went to look for a copy on the internet instead. I looked up on eBay if I can find a copy of this game, and to my trigonometrical surprise, I found one that was selling for only $10,000. I used my father's credit card and clicked on buy. Right after that, my computer let out a green smoke and showed the blue screen of death, and then it suddenly blew up hyper-realistically. I just assumed it was a glitch, so I continued with my daily life of playing Need for Speed games and jacking off to the Lamborghini Murcielago, eagerly awaiting my copy of Need for Speed Carbon. A decade has already passed, and out of my peripheral, hexademic and kaleidoscopic vision, I noticed the mailman arriving in a radiation suit and carefully taking out my copy of Need for Speed Carbon and then throwing it through my window in panic. I thought nothing of it, so I just picked up my long-awaited game. The cover was pretty ordinary. It showed a crashed car and a bleeding corpse nearby. But what took me by surprise is that instead of the name Carbon, the game had the title Need for Speed Urine on it. I just assumed it was a printing mistake, so I opened the case and I noticed the disc was glowing like alien poo. Inside the case was also a mail. It had written, "Don't play this game, You will die if you do. I thought it was normal though, so I eagerly popped in the disc to finally play the game. When I turned on my PlayStation 2, it suddenly started burning in green flames, and the television showed a quick slideshow of car crash victims bleeding hyper-realistically with blood. But I just assumed it was some kind of glitch, so I kept playing. I created a new profile and immediately started a new career mode. The career mode began, and I was at the part where you arrive at Palmont City with your boner-inducing BMW M3 GTR. Meanwhile, all around the canyon, there were hyper-realistic corpses laying around everywhere, bleeding with red blood, and outside of my house, I noticed that it was raining green acid. I figured it was just some glitch, so I continued playing. After a few seconds, Cross from Need for Speed Most Wanted arrives in his black Chevrolet Corvette Z06. He had empty eye sockets that were bleeding red blood, and he was saying his line, "Guess who's back?" Only it was reversed, pixelated, digitalized, ear-piercingly loud and crunchy. My ears started bleeding blood, but I have chronic ear bleeding anyways, so it was normal. He rammed my car, and it instantly burst into green flames and red blood. Simultaneously, I heard a loud explosion outside, but I thought nothing of it, so I just continued playing. And right after that, it played a digitalized version of the cutscene afterwards, where Darius arrives in his equally boner-inducing Audi R8. He also had empty eye sockets bleeding with blood. After that cutscene, it instantly brought me to the hyper-realistic car class selection screen. Everything seemed normal, but then I noticed something was off. The Mazda RX-8 was green instead of red. That shouldn't be possible. I now realized that this was a hacked game. Anyway, I calmed down from almost breaking my television out of anger and continued playing the game. The gameplay was very ordinary, with all the hyper-realistic car crashes, explosion sounds, ear-piercing screams of agony and red blood everywhere. The crew boss races also functioned the same way, with their cars exploding in green flames whenever I won against them. They also always told me something like, "You're next" or something, but I just assumed it was supposed to be like that. And then suddenly Darius arrived in his car, and simultaneously I noticed that outside of my house there stood a car that looked exactly like his, but I simply ignored it and kept playing. Right there, the cutscene played where he called Cross to take me down and told me that he will control the entire city, but I just assumed it was a... No, wait, that's actually in the game. Never mind. But suddenly, I noticed outside that a person who looked like Darius exited that car I mentioned before, and he looked straight at me. It was unimportant, so I kept playing. I was continuing with the hyper-realistic and gory career mode as usual, and suddenly I was finally able to buy a Lamborghini Murcielago. My bonus started growing the size of Japan, and I wanted to do nothing more than furiously jack off. So I kept playing as usual and finally got to the last race with Darius. And then I noticed that the Darius guy outside was murdering innocent bystanders, but I was too busy jacking off to my Murcielago to contact the police or something. I finally won the race against Darius, when suddenly my annoying older brother, who was an enthusiastic and greasy brony, came into my room to watch me jacking off to my Murcielago. My television began shaking erratically at the sight of my annoying brother, and then the monitor blew up, leaving a huge gaping hole. That gaping hole turned into a black hole. It started sucking in everything, including my brother, who was screaming at the top of his lungs, clearly calling for help. I thought all of that was really weird, and I probably should have done something, but my curiosity got the best of me, so I kept watching to see what happens. After the black hole sucked in my brother, I suddenly felt something moving towards me, and I turned my head around to see what it was. It was my Murcielago. I was so happy. It attacked me and started to fuck me. It hurt so much, but I pushed against its force. I wanted to please my Murcielago. I felt my anus tearing as my eyes started to water, when suddenly the Darius guy from outside entered my room and said something that changed my life forever. That Darius guy handed over his Audi R8 to me, and my boner suddenly started growing to the size of Russia now. My Murcielago felt betrayed and was out for blood now. I quickly ran out of my house, jumped into Darius guy's Audi R8 and drove away, even though I'm only 20 years old and I don't have a driver's license yet. But I just assumed it was a glitch, so I kept driving. I ran over several innocent pedestrians, but that was unimportant. I was getting tired of running away from my Murcielago, so I just decided to ram it to shreds. It has crashed, and I immediately jumped out of my Audi R8 to go and fuck my Murcielago, when suddenly the Darius guy appeared again, entering his car, and now he started ramming me and my Murcielago with full force, until we all bursted into green flames. And so I died, and my father did not take kindly to me having used his credit card. But I assumed it was just a glitch, so I kept playing. Hi, my name is Mark, and I'm 12 years old. Yesterday, I saw something that changed my life for the worse. It all started when I was watching my favorite TV show of all time, Skibidi Toilet, and I was on the 69th episode, when all of a sudden, my power cut out. I got so scared, so I decided to walk outside. I went on a walk while watching Skibidi Toilet on my phone, but then I found a yard sale. I walked over to it because I wanted to see if they had any Skibidi Toilet merchandise, but they didn't. I walked over to the cashier and yelled at him, saying, "Why the fuck don't you have any Skibidi Toilet?" He said, "Calm down, we actually do have a Skibidi Toilet game you can play." I said, "Wow, really?" He said, "Yeah," and told me I could have it for free. Sweet. I punched him in the face and stole his money because lol, and ran off with the game. I went home and opened the box up. Inside was a DVD that said skibidytoilet.exe in blood red text. I brushed it off as some kind of joke and put it into my Skibidi themed computer. I wiped the chip crumbs off my chair and cleaned up the food from the keyboard and opened the DVD slot on my computer and put in the disc. What I saw next traumatized me forever. The application started up and the icon was Skibidi Toilet, but he had red eyes. I thought that was weird, but I didn't care that much and went on. The game started up and I was playing as a cameraman. I was like, "Zomp, so cool, cameraman? I love that gear." But then I was walking around, but the sky was black and there was no sound. I was confused and thought it was a bug. Then I heard a Skibidi Toilet sound and got so excited. I love Skibidi Toilet. I was so happy to see him. But then when he appeared in frame, he looked different. He was like normal Skibidi Toilet, but his eyes were hyper-realistic and he had blood coming out from his bloody red eyes. I was scared and ran away from the Skibidi Toilet, but he was faster than me. He chased me down and caught me and said in a deep voice, "You're next." And he decapitated my cameraman and ate his organs. I was scared, and right before I shut off the game, he looked towards the screen and jumped at it, but I shut it off in time. I was so scared. I shut off my computer and restarted it. But then, when it came back on, my background was different. It was the Skibidi Toilet, and it said in blood red text, it said, "You made big mistake. You will pay." Then it flashed Jeff the Killer on my screen. I got so scared I shitted my pants and cried till dawn. When I woke up, I saw Skibidi Toilet staring at me. I jumped and punched him in the face, and he said, "You shouldn't have done that." Then he turned around and pulled out a gun and shot me 37 times and I died. Moral of the story, do not play skibidytoilet.exe. It is dangerous, and he is still out there. I am suffering from my bullet wounds writing this, and I think I'm died soon. To all my Gen Alphas, do not, and I repeat, do not play skibidytoilet.exe. My blood is all over the floor. It looks like my time is up. Find skibidi.exe and flush him before it's too late. Goodbye, my Sigma squad. May we meet in another Ohio somewhere far, far away. One day, as I was walking home, I looked down, and there was Grand Theft Auto 4. Being that I didn't have that game, I picked it up. If I had known what was ahead, I would have never picked it up. When I got home, I opened the case, and the tilde was in red. But on the disc in big black writing it said, "Do not play." I ignored what it said and put in the game. It started normally, only something didn't seem right. The creator's title came up, and in big crimson letters it said, 666 made this. These letters were dripping down. I thought it must be hacked, so I ignored it and moved on. When the tilde came up, it was crimson red, not the ordinary white. The intro started, but the song was playing in reverse, and the drawings were very disturbing. The first was of Nico killing Roman and Mallory at the wedding. The second was of him strangling Kate. The third was Nico cutting off the head of a woman. The final one was of Nico with red, hyper-realistic eyes saying, "You're next." Finally, the loading save data came up, and it was red. It said save data not found, starting a new game. The game screeched and stopped after what felt like an eternity. The game started. A version of Dwayne's apartment building, but it was creepy as hell. Blood coming out of the walls and windows boarded up. "What the hell?" I said. I went to where Dwayne's apartment was. He was there facing away from Nico. I walked up to him. He turned around and I nearly threw up. His face was what looked like it had been burned with acid, and he had been stabbed. It looked like his eyes were cut out before the burn. Before I had the time to think of what I saw, something hit Nico on the back of the head. The screen went black for a short time. When the screen came back to life, Nico was strapped to a chair. I tried to get away, but the game didn't let me. I looked around. I saw Roman, his face peeled off and stab wounds all over his body. Next was Kate, but she was cut into pieces, and those were hard to distinguish from body parts, because they had all been burned to the bone with acid. Holy shit, I whispered to myself. A door I hadn't seen slammed open. A red mask started to get closer to Nico. Nico asked the red mask, "Why?" The red mask didn't reply. A rope went around Nico's neck. Nico was stabbed, burned and shot several times. Then his eyes were cut out and his mouth sewn shut. The screen went black for what felt like hours. When it comes back, Nico was on top of a bridge. Nico had cinder blocks tied to his legs, and was the red mask thrown him over. I saw a person on the bottom. That person drowning in all his pain was me. I heard a deafening scream. Everything started to shake as I cover my ears and look up and see a red mass. Hello, my name is Austin Maurice, and 2 days ago I had a really spooky experience, like a stupidly horrifying one. So anyways, let me tell you, presumably the listener, about it. I was at my local CEX, the UK version of GameStop, I think, and I saw a Subnautica box for the PS4. I went over and picked it up. The art on the box was different, and it was called Subnautica Super Deluxe. Flipping it over, I saw the protagonist, Riley, with hyper-realistic bloody eyes, seemingly staring at me. I jumped back and almost shit myself. "Holy fudge, what a jump scare," I exclaimed. "Watch your language, young man," the very tall and smoking hot female cashier said to me. "Yes, ma'am," I said. I took the game over to her and wondered if I should go full on alpha mode on her, but decided that was for little cringy bitch boys, and I'd just pay for the damn game instead. As I slam dunked it onto the counter, the lady suddenly pulled out a flashlight and shone it under her chin. "Are you sure you want this one?" she said in a very poorly done spooky tone. The man who sold this to us was a big demonic looking fellow with hyper-realistic eyes, presumably because he was real. "What the actual flip are you yapping about?" I said, trying not to blush. And what's with the torch? Oh, never mind, she said, turning it off, and me on. I'll sell to you for £2. Yes, Queen, I thought as I handed her the tenner in my wallet, letting her keep the change because I am an absolute stud. But not a simp, you dumbasses. On the way home, I stopped at McDonald's for a Big Mac, which tasted like absolute swamp ass. When I got home, I opened the box, and a red liquid, presumably cranberry juice, but correct me if the comments if I'm wrong, spilled out and almost ruined my £2,000 custom GLaDOS X Weekly fanfiction. The disc had a big mouth on it, which didn't look like any Leviathan I had seen before. I absolutely smashed the disc into my PS4 and booted it up, telling it to shut up when it told me I turned it off improperly again. The menu on the PS4 turned red and black, with big fish swimming around it. The big fish kept reciting my IP address, so I told it to fudge off, and it swam away crying. I'm telling mommy on you, it sobbed. This was pretty weird. Was this all the disc? When I booted the game up, I suddenly needed a piss, which was strange, as I'd gone 234 hours without drinking for a dare. But that's another story. As I violated the toilet bowl with my personal laser, I could hear the strangest sounds coming from my bedroom, which I can only describe as sounding like two badgers mating after eating Taco Bell. When I finished and went back to my room, the noises had stopped, and the title screen had popped up. On the title screen, there was a Reaper Leviathan making out with a sea treader, and a furry on the lower right hand corner of the screen, who quickly disappeared. I was confused by all this and thought I'd bought the sex version of Subnautica by mistake. Thinking it was just a glitch, like all good creepypasta protagonists, I hit play game and saw different game modes. There was shitpost mode, which I didn't pick, as I did not want an admin to ban my story. Sea Dragon Dating Sim, which sounded absolutely cracking. I mean, have you even seen that thing? And regular mode. Despite the obvious winky face in the title, I chose that mode anyway because I'm kinda dumb honestly. Subnautica takes forever to load ordinarily, but this shit dragged on like a math class. Am I right, fellow kids? It went on for so long that I'd become an old man with long white hair and false teeth by the time it finished loading. I grabbed my mossy controller in my old, gross, wrinkly hands and watched the intro cutscene. In it, the ship was constructed with Timo supplies, so it crashed easily into planet 454 GB. Everyone died, except the protagonist, who did an absolutely radical kickflip out of the falling ship on a skateboard. He landed in the shallows and the game began. I noticed that the oxygen on the player ran out quickly, which made me rage with the ultimate old dude energy. I surfaced and saw a big, fat thing in the distance, which was so large that I started lagging in real life. I swam towards the thing, and it was a big fish-like leviathan with a bloated belly. Suddenly, it spoke. "I've eaten too much Taco Bell," it said weakly. It then let out a massive wet fart which blew up everything and killed everyone. The gas came through my TV, and it smelled like rotten eggs and burnt rubber and sewage and spicy Doritos and skunk spray and garbage and petrol and Taco Bell toilets and rancid cheese and off milk and nappies and old meat and feet and sleet and moldy vegetables all put in a vat and left to ferment in the Sahara Desert for 2 nonillion years. The TV literally melted from the stench and I dissolved alive. The last thing I heard was the Leviathan saying, "Pardon me," in an embarrassed way. But wait, I hear you ask. How the fuck am I telling you this when I'm dead? Well, I'm a ghost now. Ooh, motherfucker. I'm in your walls and I'm coming for you. Sorry for that. The end. Or is it? Hello, my name is Jacob. I got the horror game Five Nights at Freddy's. I turned the game on. Then, instead of Freddy Fazbear on the title screen, It was Golden Freddy. The title was now It's Me. I started the game up. It took place in the office as usual, but Golden Freddy was in the office. I was still looking at him and he didn't kill me. I put up the camera and the still image of the It's Me flashing screen on every camera. I went back to see that the Celebrate poster has Golden Freddy instead of Freddy Fazbear. Instead of the squeaking noise, it was the sound of a girl laughing when you discover Golden Freddy. I looked at the camera again and it went straight to the show stage. It wouldn't let me switch cams. Instead of Freddy Fazbear, it was Golden Freddy in his place, sitting down, dead looking. All the animatronics in the cam was looking straight at me. I was so freaked out at this point. I put down the camera to see that it went to the Golden Freddy death screen. Then the game crashed. I saw that a file opened called itsme.avi. I freaked out. It was a 10-minute loop of Golden Freddy doing a Freddy Fazbear animation, beeping and ticks in the background. The video was blurred, had a film grain. It was brighter than I thought. The game restarted and went to custom night, mode 1987. I couldn't switch the numbers, so I went straight to 1987 mode, and I started next to the Pirate Cove. The Pirate Cove opened to reveal Golden Freddy. He was looking at me. He then does his death sound, and then the screen went to black screen saying Game Over, with Sonic CD US Game Over music in the background. Then the game crashed. I was scared, and I decided to restart the game, but it would always go to a screen with Golden Freddy death animation with the death sound before the title screen could show. I decided to delete the game from my Steam and forget all about it. My dad is a man-child, and like the ones you find on the internet. He likes the Diary of a Wimpy Kid so much. He forces me to read it with him whenever a new one is released. After what I just experienced a while ago, I am uncertain if I will read another Diary of a Wimpy Kid book for a while. I was walking down the street one day when I saw a Diary of a Wimpy Kid book I had never seen before. It was black and read, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Game Over. It had a picture of Greg in tears holding a gun to his head, with a noose around his neck. It listed Jeff Kinney as the author as usual. It was weird considering Jeff Kinney usually writes for kids. I picked it up and took it to my dad's house when an old lady started to become suspicious when watering her garden. Dad was not home, so I went to my room. I couldn't tell at the moment, but something unsettling about it that didn't seem quite right. So I made the mistake of opening it up and reading it by myself. It was typical Wimpy Kid style drawings and text allegedly by Jeff Kinney, but something was very different from those other books in the series. Greg swore heavily in this one, as opposed to the G-rated books that were the norm. I don't remember every single word in the book, but I can give a synopsis. In the book, Greg rants about how crappy and depressing his life is and how he wants it all to end. His best friend Rowley is like a child in a middle schooler's body, and his little brother gets special treatment and never gets in trouble. As Greg continues to make entries, the text and drawings get more low quality, as Greg is under the influence of marijuana. On the final day of his diary, in practically illegible writing and crude, distorted drawings, Greg finds a gun that belongs to his brother Roderick. With an evil, mentally ill look on his face, he calls Rowley to come over to play. Rowley arrives at Greg's house, very excited. Greg, who is now under the influence of pot, takes Rowley up to his room. Greg sneaks up on Rowley from behind and starts choking him with a wire before shooting him. Rowley dies on impact off the ground. Greg steals his mom's car and drives to Corny's family-style restaurant and stuffs Rowley's body in the mascot outfit. Greg then pulls out a gun and shoots himself. Greg's body and his diary laid in the body fluid coming out of the suits has the sound of police sirens and flashing lights gleam through the window. Only a third of the book was used. Diary of a Wimpy Kid usually has over 100 something pages. The other 2/3 of the book was blank diary pages, stained with reddish pink body fluid. I felt like I could throw up. In fact, I did briefly. When my dad got home, I showed him the book and called the police. The police chief said that was a legitimate book and they were going to make a movie based on it. My reaction was, with a look of horror, "God help us all," I said, turning white in the face. My mother used to bake and cook a lot. She had gone to culinary school, so she knew a lot of neat tips and tricks to make anything taste like a delicacy. I grew up around all of this amazing food, and she would teach me how to make delicious food at the least amount of costs, and my father would teach me to forage. They went together like two peas in a pod, and the biggest mistake of my life is the day I decided to go out into the woods to get some natural herbs for my dinner, and I came across something so magnificent. My mouth dropped and my heart skipped a beat. I came across the largest bean I have ever seen in my life. It was massive. It must have been 10 feet tall and 5 feet around. I was so excited. I couldn't wait. I rolled it back through the woods to my truck and tied it to the bed and drove back home. But I couldn't shake this odd feeling looming over me. I felt as though something horrible was going to happen. But it was counteracted by the dangerous fast increase of my own hunger. It was so bizarre. So I just looked forward to eating. I got home and I couldn't even fit it in my house. So I went into my garage and I grabbed my saw. I started sawing the bean into smaller pieces and carrying them back into my kitchen. It would last me weeks alone on just this one bean. So I decided I'd have chili for dinner. I cut one of the pieces into smaller bits and chopped it all up and made chili, just like Mom used to make. It was incredible. The bean had so much flavor to it, but I was still hungry. I decided to make something else. I made a casserole. Just like the chili, it was delicious, but it still didn't satisfy me. So I made more food, and more, and more. I made bean curry, I made bean soup, I made burritos and salads and stews. I was awake all night long, and before I knew it, I ate the whole bean. The sun was up, it was the morning, I was still starving, but I had already cooked everything in my household. I was exhausted. My exhaustion overcame my hunger, and I started slowly slumping towards my bedroom to get some rest. I'm not sure how long I was out. I just remember waking up very abruptly in the dead of night. It was pitch black outside. I didn't even bother looking at my alarm clock next to my bed. I just knew I had to defecate so bad. All of my energy was restored, and I rushed as fast as I could into the restroom down the hallway. I just sat there. It was horrible. I was sitting there for hours in agony. It was unbearable. And then I felt a loud drop in the toilet bowl, and I realized something. I had no heartbeat. I died that evening. Or so I had hoped. Because the worst part of my story, it was still to come. Despite my embarrassing, horrible way to go, I saw no light at the end of the tunnel, and I never saw my life flash before my eyes. I saw darkness. I had no mouth. I couldn't scream or yell for help. I had no eyes. I could only see a never-ending abyss of blackness. I had no ears. All I could hear was absolute silence. The kind of silence where there is nothing in the world around you. No wind, no birds chirping, no existence. And this purgatory I was in. I had no idea how long I was in this state. It felt like years, maybe decades. And then it all happened. I could not see, scream, or hear, but I could feel. I felt as if I was being rolled away over dirt and leaves. And then it hit me. I was the bean. I knew what was to come. The agony I was about to endure. Every knife entering my skin. Every bite this person will take out of me. Every bowel movement I will feel when I am inside his or her body. What will happen afterwards? I do not know. I just pray to whatever God that can hear me. Please, by any means possible, just let this be the end. Do you guys know Sesame Street? It is about puppets where they learn something by segments. But when I discovered this very scary episode, it was in the morning. I was using the computer and I found an email from a user called Unknown. Congratulations, you won a free lost episode of Sesame Street. I clicked the link and it said sesamestreetkiller.avi. I downloaded it and I found a readme file and it said, "Kill the puppets, boss." Might be another boss or something. It was nonsense. Anyways, I started it up and the intro was just as normal. It started with Elmo and Cookie Monster playing hide and seek, but a camera panned to someone saying, "I will kill the puppets." And he got out a knife and a gun. He went right here and he said, "Die," to Elmo. Then he shot a gun at Elmo. Elmo died, and the blood was coming out of his neck. Cookie Monster screamed in horror, and the murderer started to chase Cookie Monster. Cookie Monster found a wall of dead end. The murderer got out an AK-A4 and started to shoot all over Cookie Monster's body. He had several holes in his body, and hyper-realistic blood came out of Cookie Monster, and he shot Cookie Monster's corpse until it was completely gone. His brains, guts came out of everywhere. I was very scared. I almost vomited. Now, the murderer went to Zoe. He said, "Open up the mouth. I will kill you." Zoe was shocked and killed Zoe by shooting her in the mouth. Blood from her tongue got out, and Big Bird saw this and she was surprised. And the killer decided to kill Gordon, and Gordon got his hand up, and he was shot, and his head flew out. Hyper-realistic blood came out of his neck, and he killed him with a rocket launcher and guts, blood, and his brain popped out. It was very scary. And now he saw Big Bird. The killer got out a small knife and stabbed Big Bird forever. Now he burned Big Bird with fire. His guts, blood spilled everywhere, and now he was killed. And he now set a bomb and died, as well as exploding Sesame Street. Amber was never normal. Ever since she was little, she was never the one to socialize. Amber never liked talking due to her voice. Every time she tried to talk to someone, they never understood what she was trying to say. So now that she was older, she barely talked. The only person she talked to was her mother, her sister, and her cousins. Amber can be classified as a loner, even though she is homeschooled now. Even when she went to school, she barely talked. The only time she talked is when she was asked a question from the teacher, or when someone was talking to her. But now, after all the years of not being understood, she gave up on talking to people. Silent wears a blue hoodie along with some black tights. She also wears black boots with black socks. Silent likes to wear a mask with a smiley face to cover her mouth, so that she looks like she's always smiling. Her hair goes to her shoulders, so when she puts her hair up and pulls her hoodie up to cover her hair, she can look like a boy to trick people. As an innocent girl, she was shy and quiet. She was never good at making friends or talking to people, but she always trusted people too easily. But everyone left her. So now she has trust issues. Even though she's homeschooled now, it still doesn't stop her from not trusting people. She promised herself to never trust a single soul ever again. Amber went to school until she was 10. That's when she became homeschooled. Everything was perfect, as well as perfect as Amber's life can be. But when she was 10, she started to move her head, arms, legs, and other body parts uncontrollable. She didn't know what was happening, but she didn't tell her parents or her sister, scared of what they might think. So she just continues living life, trying to stop the twitches as much as possible to seem normal. Close to her 11th birthday, her father got arrested for almost choking her sister Jessica. But after that, her mother divorced her father. Amber was fine with her father not living with them anymore. She thought that she never loved him, but after a couple of months, she didn't really miss him. But she missed having a dad. Amber thought that her family was incomplete. Of course, she never told her family about her feelings, not wanting them to worry about her. In February 2017, Amber started to watch anime. She enjoyed it, but she started to enjoy seeing people in pain. She didn't care at the time, but later on in the year, she found out that she was becoming a sadist. She also became depressed, thinking that she has no purpose in life. That's when she became more distant towards her family. Also, during this time, she started to talk to the voice in her head, that she named insanity, more and more often. She guessed, by triggering her sadistic side, that she always had, but is now showing, insanity started to talk to Amber, and eventually, insanity became Amber's best friend, and only. Amber only talked to insanity when she is alone, which insanity didn't mind, knowing that Amber was always alone. Amber thought of insanity as a best friend, knowing that insanity always tried to make her feel happy, and told her the right thing to do, but that wasn't the case sometimes. During the year 2017, insanity kept telling Amber to kill her mother and sister. Amber didn't want to, so she kept saying no to insanity. But it didn't help that she kept daydreaming about killing them. Amber thought that it was insanity's fault, knowing insanity's background. So Amber told insanity to stop, but insanity swore that it wasn't her. With that, Amber thought she was going insane. In December, Amber was looking up mental illnesses and found some that describes what is happening to her. So after some research of like 6 mental illnesses, Amber found out that she has Tourette syndrome, social anxiety disorder, OCD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and depression. After she found out about all these, she did more research to try to prove that she doesn't have them, but was in vain, and what she read about all the mental illnesses described her perfectly. Amber didn't tell her family, because she didn't know how to. Insanity told Amber to tell her mother, truly worried for her mental health. But Amber, being the stubborn she is, didn't listen to insanity. She just acted as normal, as she can be around other people. One day, Amber was home alone. She was trying to take a photo of herself on her phone, but couldn't. All the photos she took was ugly, so she deleted them. She started to cry, thinking that she was ugly. So she did the only thing that has been on her mind the entire day. She grabbed a pocket knife that she has in her room and started to cut herself. She thought that she wasn't cutting that deep to actually leave scars, but did. After a couple of weeks of cutting herself, she stopped, scared that she would get caught. But then she noticed that cutting herself left scars on her arm, so she tries too hard to hide them so that no one would see them. She still cuts herself from time to time when she is really sad at the time. It was nighttime when it happened. Amber's mom was at work, so that left Amber and her sister Jessica home alone. They was just watching TV and Jessica wanted to clean the house, but Amber didn't want to. So they got into a fight, with Jessica telling Amber that she never does anything around the house. After a couple minutes, Jessica made the mistake to tell Amber that she wished that she was never born. After that, Jessica went into her own, leaving Amber alone in the living room, along with an angry insanity. After a couple seconds, Amber went into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and hid. 10 minutes later, Amber heard footsteps and Jessica calling her name. Saying that she was sorry, Jessica went into the kitchen, trying to find Amber. But Amber wasn't in control anymore. Insanity was. So Insanity walked up to Jessica and just stood in front of her, hiding the knife behind her back. Jessica hugged her, saying that she was sorry and that she loved her. Amber smiled, now back in control, but is now listening to insanity. Amber raised the knife and stabbed Jessica's back, making Jessica fall backwards. Looking up at Amber with a look of pain and sadness. Jessica asked why, but the answer she got wasn't the one she wanted. Please don't blame me. I was only doing what the voice told me. Then Amber got on top of her and started to stab Jessica over and over again, laughing while doing so. After she thought that it was enough, Amber dragged Jessica to her room and laid her down on her bed, wanting her to be comfortable even while dead. After Amber tucked Jessica's dead body under the covers, she washed her knife, put on her sister's black boots on, put a mask on, and went outside and started to walk down the road, wanting to get away as soon as possible. After like 2 days, she found some woods that she started to live in, killing anyone that enters. I am, and will always be, a huge Dragon Ball fan. I've watched every series at least 1,000 times, except for one, Dragon Ball GT. GT is known as the black sheep in the Dragon Ball franchise, hated by almost everyone, even me, but of course, I still watched it. Just not as much as the rest of Dragon Ball. One day, I decided it would be a good idea to watch GT again. It was a couple days since I've last watched through it in full. I went to go to my shelves where I kept my DVDs and my action figures of many anime characters I loved. When I got there, I picked up the DVD that had the first season of GT, and then I was about to leave to watch the series when I noticed my Super Saiyan 4 Goku figure looked weird. The color in its hair started to turn into a more white color, and his eyes were starting to look bigger. I thought that it was just starting to show its age. I'm not gonna deal with replacing it right now. Fuck that. I rushed back to my computer where I looked up Dragon Ball GT Free Watch and clicked on the first link and was happy to see the full series in the highest quality it could have been. But then, after 1 minute, it just cut. And the title card appears. Dragon Ball Demon Z. I was shook and didn't know what to think, but that was nothing to what was next. The episode started with Krillin, Jiren, Vegeta, and the rest of the main cast everyone loved. They looked to all be getting ready for battle, but with who? And where was our hero, Goku? Krillin starts to speak. You guys, are we sure about this time? I haven't mastered Super Krillin times Goku teleport in front of Krillin. Goku laughs and then says, Heh, Krillin, maybe in a couple more billion restarts you could put a scratch onto me. Goku had red spiking hair that was as big as a van. He had dark eyes with red pupils. Also, he had 666 written on his head. He killed Krillin just by blinking. I was so shook. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Goku would never do that. Me along every Dragon Ball character screamed because Krillin's fucking head exploded just by Goku blinking. Goku started to speak up. Everyone, we have a friend here. Someone that I can pay attention instead of all of you. Goku fucking teleports out of the animation, and I noticed my weird looking figure got fucking huge. Goku? What? Why? I said when I first saw Goku. Goku starts to laugh a little. Because I got bored. No one watched my series. I had nothing to do. He laughs more and more. Goku speaks again. Waku Waku, let's make a deal. You tell more people to watch GT, and I'll let you live. Sound fair? I said, okay, I would. Just don't hurt anyone. To everyone listening to this, don't fucking watch Dragon Ball GT. It got taken over by a fucking evil Goku. Don't fucking watch it. It fucking sucks. And you might die. Bye. Hey guys, so I don't know if this is the right place to post this, but I feel really freaked out. So I don't know if anyone has ever heard of the TV show Star Trek: The Next Generation, but it's basically a sequel to the original Star Trek. I love The Next Generation. I watch it all the time. And that's why I was so excited to find a copy of the fabled episode Picard's Last Birthday. Basically, it is a lost episode of the show. Not much information can be found about it online, but apparently it was supposed to appear after a fistful of datas, but was replaced at the last minute by The Quality of Life. No one knows why it was scrapped, and little information is available on it. The only reason anyone knows it exists is because of an interview that was done with some of the cast. Someone, I can't remember who, mentioned it when asked what the worst episode they had filmed was. The big Star Trek fan I was, I just had to find it. So I did a bit of searching and found it on eBay for the price of $6.66. I gotta admit, it was weird finding it for that low price. There was a single picture listed. It was an image from the episode. I can't really accurately describe what I felt looking at it. I mean, it was just Picard talking to Data and engineering, but something about it just creeped me out. It was like it was cursed. But I bought it. And today, it finally arrived in the mail. I took it out. It was a simple VHS tape with Picard's Last Birthday written on it. There was something odd about it. That oppressive aura I mentioned earlier. I did my best to ignore it, and put the tape into the player. It started right in the action. Picard was running around the ship, frantically trying to combat an alien menace known as the Borg. Many episodes have used the Borg, but they seemed different in this episode. Scarier. Like, they could really destroy the Enterprise. 7 of 9 was also there, which, as you know, is weird because she doesn't appear until the next series, Voyager. I was confused, but I kept watching. Just then, the Borg decided to flee. That's strange, because the Borg usually don't flee because of their overconfidence. Soon, the reason for the Borg's sudden flight becomes clear. Picard has become so angry that he has become Super Saiyan 4. Soon after panning to a shot of Picard punching Borg drones, tape stops. At this point, I was super freaked. I didn't have time to ponder this, however, as Batman burst through my front door. He looked like he had eaten a few too many brownies and was hallucinating. I quickly dodged his punches, but I didn't expect the skeleton to pop out of the box that the VHS tape shipped in. The skeleton started dancing wildly and slapped Batman with so much force that he flew out into space. The peacefulness didn't last long, however, as the skeleton began to descend upon me. Just then, I was saved by Super Saiyan 4 Picard. He busted in through the window behind the skeleton and destroyed it with one punch. The peacefulness didn't last long, however, as Super Saiyan 4 Picard began to descend upon me. He cannibalized me. Hello, I am a butterflyologist. I study butterflies. I am a professional in the field of butterflies. There are many species of butterfly, such as the butterfree of the Kanto region and the I can't believe it's not butterfly in the Dairy Isle. During my travels to South America, I came across a new species of the marvelous creature. It had dark red, purple and pink wings. Its body was black and had a big, sharp-toothed smile with large red eyes. It was abnormally large, about 4 feet, said my measurements. I watched its eating patterns and noticed it only ate from the darkest of black roses. I cleverly named it the black nectar butterfly. I snapped many photos from afar, but there was always the sort of reddish haze in the photo if the creature was looking this way. No matter what, the thing always smiles. One day, I found several of my assistants dead in my tent. It seems that something drank every last drop of their blood, because they were as shriveled as a raisin. I chose not to leave my studies, and more of my people died. One day, I found the creature sitting atop my work table, and underneath was my wife. I saw that it had blood dripping from its mouth. I thought nothing of it, and continue my studies. After one fine dinner of roasted wife, I heard on the radio that a whole African village had died of unknown causes. That day, I had not seen my little butterfly friend. It was then I realized, after 6 months, I had not encountered another one of its kind. 1 month had passed before I saw my little friend. Every day, the radio brought about more news of deaths within the continent. The final broadcast I heard stated that humans ceased to exist in Africa. Then, the host shouted something, and all I picked up after that was static. Was every human killed? But how? Why? By whom? I ignored the haunting broadcast to commence my research. The following week, my supplies came ashore. The men on it were dead. Death was by the same means as everyone else. I thought of contacting the officials, but I figured they would only want the bodies back, and I would much rather keep them. Roasted human is quite the dish. 3 days later, I saw my friend again. It had grown 1,000 times its original size. Its mouth was covered by hyperrealistic blood. Its teeth were blood-stained and its wings were hyperrealistically torn, as if it had been fighting with blood drips on them. The 4,000-foot giant tried to kill me. It jabbed with its antenna, but I quickly did a barrel roll. I got an arrow to the knee, but I was alright. I narrowly escaped to the shore and swam all the way to Russia. They captured me, and now, for trespassing, I'll be put to death by multiple gunshots. I am telling this because I need the world to look out for this thing. It will kill us all. I just can't do it anymore. The lack of sleep, not knowing what's real. My parents think I'm crazy. Same with my friends. I guess none of that matters now. I fear the end of me and my madness is near. To tell the truth, I'm really antisocial. You could also label me as insensitive and lazy. I think that's why all this is happening to me. But I just don't know what to think anymore with all of my delusion. This all started about a month and a half ago, when I started to see shadows right out of the corner of my eyes. This happened all the time for about 3 days, all day and all night. I tried to not let it bother me, and I thought it would go away. But eventually, the shadows started to evolve into a silhouette of some type of creature that was tall and bulky, almost buff. When the silhouette started to show up, it really caught me off guard, and I started to be paranoid. Over the next week, the silhouette started to get closer and more clear by each day's pass. Eventually, when the silhouette as was more clear to me, I could see that this thing was huge, disproportionate. It had a set of 3 long sword-like claws on each hand. Around here is when I started to get extremely paranoid. I would see him in doorways, and outside my house in the middle of the street, his presence always around, lingering. The thing that really started to make me lose sleep was this feeling I got that the silhouette wasn't the only thing watching me. I felt like something was a lot closer. My paranoia started to drive me mad, and I started having hallucinations, or what I think are hallucinations. When they started, they were terrifying, like looking into my bathroom mirror and see blood flowing in my eye and mouth, or even seeing long slashes down my arms. But most of the time, I see a small blue angry demon with an old face, generally sitting somewhere above, just out of reach, and looking down on me. After a month, I rarely sleep, and most of the day I try to hide in my room from that thing. Once I had not slept for 3 days, I was at my breaking point. I was extremely tired, and even more delirious than I already was. At the height of my delirium, that night the hallucinations were constant, and that damned thing was right outside my window. I finally gave in to my sleepiness, and let the darkness consume me into the void. Upon me waking up, I saw something I can't forget. Not a silhouette, but this thing was standing me over. This thing was almost 10 feet tall, bulky, brown fur, large black eyes, and a face that I could only describe as a sloth's face, but with large teeth and a crooked, ominous smile. It felt like an eternity staring at its monstrosity, until it started to reach for me and I cowered and shut my eyes. Then nothing. To my amazement, he was gone. Everything stopped. He was gone. In fact, over the next hour, nothing happened. No hallucinations, no sloth, no nothing. The day was the most peaceful day I've had in the last 2 months. As the time went by and night approached, I got this twisted feeling in my gut and literally made me get sick. Then I had a true realization and knew that he would be back soon. I felt his presence. It was back. This time it was different though. I wasn't scared. I was calm and collect. I knew my fate. So I took the time to write this to warn everyone, don't be sloth, or sloth man will get you. I do not wish to scare you. I only wish to release the truth. I was a young kid back in October of 2002, and I was sleeping in my basement. I was not allowed to watch shows like Family Guy back then, and I was curious to watch at least one episode so I could brag to my friends that I watched it. I noticed that at 2 a.m. an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants was on. I hovered over the episode in my TV guide and saw that the episode was called File A1B7. So I set it to come on and went back to watching Family Guy. When it came on, the title card was changed. It was just File A1B7 in front of a fuzzy background. It was an episode I had never seen before, so I started recording it on my DVR. I will now describe the episode and what happened afterwards. Some details may be disturbing for some viewers. It started out with SpongeBob in his house, petting Gary. Except Gary seemed agitated by SpongeBob and was making a loud, surprisingly realistic growl. Then there was a knock on the door, and SpongeBob answered it to see Squidward standing there. This is where things got extremely strange. Squidward told SpongeBob to stop petting his snail, but instead of SpongeBob being his usual cheery self, he answered with a very soft no. The frame then started to get fuzzy, but he could clearly make out SpongeBob just staring at Squidward. After about 10 more seconds of this, the screen went black. Then, about 5 frames came up of Squidward laying dead in SpongeBob's closet. As you can imagine, I am very scared at this point, but I decided to keep watching. The screen fuzzed out and then showed SpongeBob at the Krusty Krab. Mr. Krabs called him into his office and asked if he knew why Squidward didn't show up for work. SpongeBob answered him with the same soft voice from before and said, "I don't know, sir." He then turned around and walked out of the room. Now, a single loop of SpongeBob walking down the street is played for about 5 minutes. The screen suddenly flashes to 5 frames of Mr. Krabs laying dead on top of Squidward's body in SpongeBob's closet. The screen suddenly flashes black and white while making an extremely loud static noise. At this point, I started freaking out. It started to get hard to breathe. I then passed out. When I woke up, the episode was still on. I do not, nor will I ever want to know what happened in the episode while I was out. However, after I woke up, the same loop of SpongeBob walking was on, and it went on for another 5 minutes. It then flashed to another 5 frames of Patrick, Pearl, and Sandy, dead, laying on top of Mr. Krabs and Squidward in SpongeBob's closet. The screen fuzzed out again and went to a loop of SpongeBob walking downstairs in his house for about 3 minutes. Then he starts walking in his basement. Behind him were piles of dead fish, blood pouring down their bodies. Then the screen fuzzed and went to an image of SpongeBob's face. His eyes were slowly melting out of their sockets. Then his lips moved and he spoke in the same soft voice. "I killed everyone. I'm all alone." The screen fuzzed again and then showed the final 10 frames. It was an image of SpongeBob's head in a noose, his eyes gone, hanging on a rope in his basement. Then, the episode ended. After this, I turned off the TV. I tried to go to sleep, but was tormented by the images I just saw. I managed to take a single screenshot of the episode by transferring it to my computer. It is of the title screen. I am trying to upload another screenshot of SpongeBob hanging, but I am encountering errors. Before I could upload the complete video to the internet, it was deleted from my computer in DVR for unknown causes. I am desperately trying to get the video back, and if I do, I will upload it as soon as possible. I used to love my 23-year-old younger brother, but now I don't know what to think of him. It was a normal day. I was on my computer looking at Reddit memes. Then I somehow ended up on a furry subreddit. At that moment, my twin brother walked in. He asked, "Hey bro, what are you looking at?" I told him I accidentally ended up on a furry subreddit. My brother teased me and left the room. I shrugged it off and looked back at Reddit memes. A few days later, I noticed that when he had free time on the computers at school, my brother would look at the furry subreddit. I shrugged it off, but I should have taken that as the first warning. The next day, I went into my brother's room to get something, but his computer was on, and the open tab was an eBay listing of a wolf suit. I was weirded out, but I didn't mention it to anyone. A week later, I saw him reading furry magazines. I asked him why he was so interested in furries, but he ignored me. The next day, I caught him watching furry porn on his phone. I was freaked out and ran to my room. He knocked on the door and told me to let him in so he could explain. I ignored him and went to bed. At about 1 a.m. I woke up. To thin the out, I was tied up. I saw my brother wearing a fursuit. I was freaking out and tried to scream, but I had duct tape over my mouth. "Mom and Dad are on a business trip, remember?" said my brother. I was so scared. He cut the tape off my mouth and shoved dog treats in my mouth. Soon enough, I was choking and almost died. At that moment, the police bust down the door and arrested my brother. I tried to figure out who called the police, but then I remembered that I have a condition where I accidentally call the police in my sleep. My brother was charged with kidnapping and attempted murder. I still don't know how to feel. I love my brother, even though he was dropped on the head as a baby. Anyways, the moral of the story is don't use Reddit. I am a big fan of Kirby games. I own mostly all of them and beat every one, except for one, Kirby Superstar Ultra. I beat the original Kirby Superstar, so I decided to beat it 100%. I took out my DS, original, not DSi or 3DS, and played the Kirby game. It started out normally. I made a new save and started to play. I did really well. No surprise since I already beat Kirby Superstar. But then, when I got to Meta Knight's Revenge, something odd happened. The sky was red, like blood. But I thought it was a glitch or something, and continued playing. Everything was fine, other than the red sky, which persisted throughout my entire gameplay of Meta Knight's Revenge, until I got to the part with Dynablade, when Dyna got hit by the cannons when flying around the halberd. And I fell on the halberd. It looked like Dynablade was actually bleeding and crying. I heard a scream come from the game, and I knew something was up. I continued going down the halberd, and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. No enemies, no speech from Meta Knight or his cronies, not even sound. I was freaked out, but continued walking out of curiosity. I saw a door and entered. Inside, I saw Meta Knight's blade and a mask on the ground, both very rusty. I went to the blade, but my partner, a sword knight, attacked Kirby, and Kirby's icon, instead of saying KO'd, said dead in red, bloody letters I shut off the game and decided to play something else. It had been 2 weeks since my incident with Kirby Superstar Ultra. I told my friend about it, and he found it very strange. He told me he could hack the game to see what's going on. I was hasty, but my friend said he would be very careful with it. I trusted him and gave it to him. My friend did a lot of stuff like this. He once hacked a game of Pokemon for me and gave me infinite Master Balls. He can do a lot of stuff. He's a genius. After 2 days, I returned to my friend's house, but found it was for sale. A realtor was there and told me that he was to give me the game Kirby Superstar Ultra. And he also had a note. It read, "My dear friend, I hacked the game. I saw things I cannot explain. It was too horrible to see. I just couldn't do anything. I saw files that weren't supposed to be there and one file. No, I cannot say. If I do, it'll come for you. Please, for the sake of our lives, just do not play this game. Destroy it, sell it, store it somewhere hidden. I don't care. Just do not play it. Please. From your friend." Shocked, I took the game and threw it in the trash, hoping never to see it again. Whatever it was, I didn't want to know. Wanting to still 100% the Kirby series, I bought another copy of Kirby Superstar Ultra. I hoped it wasn't as bad as the last one, and I started to play it again. But then, instead of seeing the regular icon for the game, I saw a blank icon with the title, "Ye Brick," which was Kirby spelled backwards. I played it and it showed Kirby. Just Kirby. Standing. Not blinking. No animation. Then a text box appeared. "You're safe," it said. "Don't hide." It continued. I thought to myself, what is going on? Then the text box said, "You are in fear, scared, helpless, but you have no reason to. You are safe. You don't need to run. Be free with me." This was getting creepy. I tried to shut off the game, but it didn't work. The light was off, but the screen stayed on. I tried removing the cartridge, but the game shocked me when I did. The text box continued. "Do you not want me here?" With a yes or no option. I clicked yes, and the text box fell silent. Then, the cartridge flew out of the DS and broke into a million pieces. The DS shut off, I closed it, and went to bed. The next day, my DS was broken and wouldn't turn on. I thought it was for the best, and decided to just buy another one later. I bought a DSi later, and eventually got a copy of Kirby Superstar Ultra that worked, and didn't have Ye Brick. Though, I think sometimes, who was Ye Brick? Was he a demon? A joke a developer put in? Or something else? I guess I'll never know. I later found my friend living in Nevada. I drove over, and whenever I brought up Kirby Superstar Ultra, he quickly changed the subject, or said, "I don't want to talk about it." Strange. He also said he gave up on hacking and became a job as a high school computer teacher. It was a simpler life, he said. So, in all, I didn't find out anything, but I sure did have a scary and strange adventure. Thank you to listening to my little tale. I found a computer downstairs. It was a really beat up, but still functional console. I got a monitor and turned it on. It was Windows XP, like my old one. It had a background of black, one logo on it, excluding the ones you get in the beginning, like Recycle Bin. Roblox. I played it. This was not like Roblox. It was logged in as player 666. The background was static, and the Roblox logo was really messed up. I clicked on games. All of them was this one place. You will die. It was a very disturbing picture of a Robloxian body. I went to catalog all items was this one thing. Gear sign for free, saying Builder Man must die. I went to people. It was all 1x. I went to the forum. It was errored. So was BC, contests, news, parents, and help. Then, when I went to the main page, it glitched to the point where I couldn't see a thing. I closed and reopened. It was a picture of a body. It then said, in blue text, "You are a noob who is a noob." The computer console got really hot. I threw it outside. It exploded in midair. I'm a big fan of Ben 10. I love Ben 10. But after what I witnessed, it's more like Ben 666. Now this is the story all about how my life got shat all over. Now sit down and be scared, or I will hit you. I was at a strip club when Bertha sat on my lap. A DVD fell out of her pocket from how fast her fat ass came crashing down onto my lap. I stole the disc. I went home and put it into my Xbox Series X. The episode started showing the Ben 10 house. It then cut to Ben in prison. The Peppa Pig narrator said, Ben 10 needs your help to get prison. All you have to do is give someone's phone number, $666 via Apple Pay, to bail him out. It then showed Ben in the ocean doing the floss. He drowned. It cut to a black screen that said in red, "You met a shitty fate, mate." The girl from Ben 10 spat on his corpse and said, "It's that Zelda," even though it was Link. This really pissed me off. Women. Okay, probably ain't gonna believe this, but I can't save it only to myself anymore. I wanted to play some old Pokemon video games. That was why I was on eBay. I don't know why I didn't simply get some Game Boy ROM online. I must be an idiot or something, but hey, you can't say that to me, okay? I've got a tragic childhood. I bought this really poorly cared Pokemon cartridge instead of some good stuff, for whatever reason. 1 month later, yeah, you know, these fucking post offices. A box was delivered on my front door. I opened it and inside, it was the cartridge. But it wasn't alone. A CD was at the bottom, with black marker written, nostalgicrandomgame.exe, with a note attached that said, "Do not you dare to play this game or it will come for you too. That CD is haunted by some serious and scary spirit of a dead, abused, psycho immortal kid who enjoys K-pop and that Asian stuff, you know. Don't play it or you will end up just like me. I'm going to end my life. P.S. You are next." After reading that horrible note, I threw the CD on the trash bin. I haven't even ordered that shit. I took a deeper look at the Pokemon cartridge. It had no label. It had really strange color. Glowing greenish purple with orange stripes. The shining silver marker, the old owner wrote Pokemon Blood and Gory Edition and drew a hyper unrealistic, I mean it's hard to be fucking Da Vinci when your canvas is the size of a Game Boy cartridge, image of Evil Patrick. I thought, well that's some weird shit, but fuck it man, I paid for it. I put it on the Game Boy. The title screen was different than any usual Pokemon game. First of all, the name on the title was Benny Suffocated. By the way, if that was a made up story, it's not, I swear. I was skeptical too, but now I believe it. Benny. It's an original character, not related with any other one on the Creepypasta community. I ain't stupid, okay? Nobody in the world would see that title screen and move on playing. That wasn't no glitch. It was a hack ROM, I didn't want it. Just like that fucking CD. I went to my computer to email the game seller about that. His username was 666 Satan Cocksucker. What didn't scare me at all. I mean, at least he has a name. I'd be scared if he was an anonymous dude, cause that's Reddit and 4chan stuff, and that creeps the shit out of me. He said he felt sorry about the misunderstanding, and to apologize, He would send me a DVD collection of the best episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants, which he had access for being a Nickelodeon intern. "Shut up, dude, no way," I replied, totally not believing his shit. "If you're really an intern, send something exclusively rad." He said, "Okay," and another month later, the box was at my door. I opened, grabbed the DVD, and was ready to put it inside my computer, when the terrible truth hit. All the so-called lost episodes of SpongeBob inside that DVD wasn't lost anymore, because someone had to find to put them on the disc. I broke that shit with a 200-inch knife in my kitchen. Then I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror, crying for all the time I've lost in these last months. Time, yeah, time. Time. Time is important, you know? Your time is up. Everyone's time is up. Because I'm pissed. When a non-strong, completely ordinary person gets pissed, oh boy, that means your time is up. I stabbed my own eye like a total moron, a maniac, because being mind-broken is cool, and then shoved a fucking clock on my empty eye hole because you had no time and shit. My mom saw me and ran to her room. I thought she would take my father's gun, but since she's not a poorly written character of a poorly written story about some overrated emo albino, she called a psychiatrist. I passed out because of the pain and woke up at the hospital. The doctor said, "What you've been thinking, Bob? That shove a clock inside my eye hole soon after stab, it isn't very healthy. He could save me of the possible infections though." And since that day, I never played. I never watched. Since that day, I never shoved clocks on my eye hole again. Hi, my name is Alan Smith, and I'm 20 years old. I am a huge fan of LazyTown, and has been ever since I was little. I collected all of its merchandise and DVDs, so I could watch the show every day. But on TV, after watching an episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on Toonami, it was announced an anime series based on LazyTown will air in autumn, and I was excited. As months have passed, the anime series finally aired its first episode on television. While I thought the anime was going to have the same light-hearted theme as the original LazyTown, I was obviously wrong. The opening looked awesome though, but the episode itself looked so dark. The episode took place in a post-apocalyptic future in LazyTown, and all of the citizens were dead except for Sportacus. Sportacus himself was crying to see that his beloved friend Stephanie died, and he had flashbacks with him and Stephanie together from the original episodes of LazyTown and what has never been seen on the anime series. He tried to give her CPR, but failed. His airship was destroyed, and had a lot of black marks there, and the mayor's house was burned down. Then, Robbie Rotten can be seen with his arms crossed and an evil grin staring at Sportacus. While the both were fighting, Robbie snapped his fingers, making his 3 clones from the We Are Number One song appear, and try to attack Sportacus. Sportacus then tried to find some sports candy, but there was none, since the anime took place many years in the future, where everything is nothing but Armageddon. There was then a remix of We Are Number One playing in the background, and the rotten clones attacking Sportacus, brutally killing him. And then, the episode ended. After I watched the episode, I noticed that the time was near 12 AM, so I quickly fell asleep. While sleeping, I heard someone cackling outside the window, and when I woke up to open the window to see what was going on out there was Robbie Rotten and his 3 clones from that episode, and they brutally murdered me, so I died. My life has become a living hell, all thanks to 4 fucking girls. September 21st, 2022. I was recommended a game called Doki Doki Literature Club, so I played it. The game is about 4 bitches named Sayori, a blue-eyed bundle of rain clouds, Yuri, the purple-eyed knife-wielding super shy but knows a lot about it poetry maiden of mystery, Natsuki, who thinks manga's literature, and Monica, the most evil video game character in history. Forget the fact that Otto actually killed 2 fucking people. Killing fictional characters is where I draw the line. So I punched bitch in the face when she appeared on screen. But then I realized that when I shattered the screen, I created a portal. A portal where the girls would come out of. I put mouse traps just in front of the computer, so when they got out, they'd have a painful greeting. They all screamed bloody murder once they got out, but Monica continued on, thinking I was a new member that wanted to join her literature club. I agreed, but because they'd helped me get my dopamine for a week. After the meeting was over, I was trying to take out the trash when I saw Sayori hanging by a rope. Her skin was decomposing, red liquid coming out. Her ribs were exposed. I went to the sewing machine and stitched her back up. She thanked me, but that would soon be a mistake as she accidentally moved her head up, which resulted in the needle hitting her eye. She reeled back in pain and fell off the table headfirst, breaking her neck. I didn't have the medical skills to help her, so I just threw her in the trash. Monica stares at me and asks, "What the fuck was that?" I said it was nothing important, and she walked back inside. The next day, Yuri was on my couch, watching the Pickle Rick episode of Rick and Morty. Funniest shit I've ever seen. I asked her, "What's up?" And she screamed like Courage the Cowardly Dog and shut off the TV. Natsuki came in with her manga in hand. "Give me the couch, Yuri," Natsuki demanded. Natsuki, I have not finished my business here," Yuri replied. They fought over the couch, but things got serious quickly when Yuri pulled out a knife and stabbed Natsuki's neck. Natsuki put the manga over her neck like it was some fucking bandage, and she fell unconscious. After that, Yuri cried as she thought of what she had done and jumped out of the window. She was on the first floor, so all she did was cost me a window. Monica tried to put a leash on Yuri like she was a dog, and Yuri bit her like one too. She bit Monica's arm right off, but she just attached it back like some sort of Lego character. Monica requested to take Yuri to the vet, and I drove there. The vet put Yuri down, and me and Monica cried. When we got home, she tried walking up the stairs, but she tumbled down and broke all her bones and cracked her head. She was still alive, and I stabbed her. Then I shot myself after saying, "I have made this. I was the cost. Jesus has abandoned us." Just so you know, we're all ghosts. We met other ghosts who were from Royal Woods, but we turned not to care about them anymore. They replaced some SpongeBob reruns. Fuck them. I am typing this in my ghost replica of my house. Goodbye. One day, I decided that I wanted to play through Kanto again. Unfortunately, I didn't own red, blue, yellow, fire red, or leaf green, but I did own a Game Boy Advance SP. Since there isn't a GameStop or anything near where I live, my only choice was to look at the local pawn shop. Luckily, they had leaf green. I bought it, and as soon as I got home, I put it in my Game Boy and started playing. Didn't have a save file, so I had to start a new game. Everything was normal until I battled my rival. I defeated him, and all he said was, ... Then it went back to the overworld. Yet again he said, ... And the screen flashed back for a moment and he disappeared. Kind of like after you defeat red in gold, silver and crystal. I finally got to Pewter City, where I could battle Brock, the first gym leader. After I defeated him, the same thing happened with him. Then a question mark popped up above my character. Then a text box popped up saying, "Found the boulder badge and TM laying on the ground. Red," which is who named my character, "obtained the boulder badge and TM." So I continued onto the next route. The thing I mentioned earlier about Brock disappearing was happening to trainers I battled too, except I just picked up their money. As I walked down the route, some old man ran up to me and said, "Wherever you go, never go to Lavender Town. I heard that ghosts are possessing some of the residents and visitors here." Then he ran off. Now I've made it to Mount Moon. I ventured through until I found rocket grunts. At least, I thought that's what they were. When I battled them, their skin looked really pale, and instead of an R on their uniform, it was a Z. I was thinking, what does that stand for? It actually freaked me out a bit. Finally, I got to the super nerd. I beat him, but there were no fossils up ahead, so I just continued, finally reaching the exit. I'm now at Cerulean City, where I can battle Misty. I battled her, but after I defeated her, she said, "I've had enough of defeat." Then, in anger, she jumped into the water, and I never saw her again. I guess she drowned herself or something. Luckily, the badge and TM was sitting on the platform that she was standing on, so I grabbed them and ran out of the gym. I decided to go to Bill's house after this. There were no trainers on the Nugget Bridge or the route after it, which I thought was kinda strange. I still went to Bill's house. I saw him laying on the ground, kind of like the old man in Viridian City. I walked up to him and pressed A. A text box popped up and said, "You can't hear him breathe. Check for heartbeat." I said yes. There is no heartbeat. He must be dead. So I walked right out, continued to Vermilion City. When I got to Vermilion City, the SSN wasn't in the harbor. There wasn't any sailors there either. I also noticed that I didn't need cut to get to the gym. I walked in, and to my surprise, there was no trainers or electric gate. It was just Lieutenant Surge, standing in the middle of the gym. I battled him, then defeated him. But after the battle, he sent out an electrode and sat on it. He said, "I can't take this anymore. Life is horrible. Electrode, use self-destruct." And it did, killing Lieutenant Surge. The badge was on the ground, but I didn't have to take it. I eventually got to Rock Tunnel, and I couldn't wait to get out. After I managed to get out, I went straight to Lavender Town. I really didn't have any other choice. As I walked around the town, I noticed the gym leaders and trainers I battled were there, but their skin was pale, almost grey colored. As I continued walking, I noticed that they were following me. Then I used my running shoes. They were still following me. About this time, I noticed that they were zombies. I ran around town looking for an unlocked building to go in, but all the doors were locked except for two, Mr. Fuji's house and Pokemon Tower. The zombies were still following me. I quickly ran into Mr. Fuji's house. I knew I would be safe there. The house was completely empty, except there was a desk with a computer on it. Out of curiosity, I walked up to it and pressed A. This is what it said. "There's a text document. Read it." I said yes. This is what the document said. "Something has gone completely wrong here in Kanto. If anyone's reading this, run from Lavender Town right now." At this point I was pretty freaked out, so I get out of the house and run towards the nearest exit. But that exit was blocked off by a fence. So I run to the other two exits, but they had fences too. I had no choice but to go into Pokemon Tower. I noticed that the zombies were gone, so I ran into the tower. But soon I found out that the zombies were there, so they started chasing me. I ran upstairs to find some possessed channelers. They didn't want to battle, but they blocked the next staircase. By this time I had a Charizard. The zombies finally caught up. One walked up to me. Then a battle started. The zombie didn't send out any Pokemon, so the zombies battled. I sent out Charizard. I tried to use Flamethrower, but it had the same response as a ghost in normal games. The zombie bit my Charizard. My Charizard fainted. The other only Pokemon I had were only weak HM slaves, so I knew at this point I was screwed. After the zombie knocked out all my Pokemon, I finally wired out. Instead of ending up in a Pokemon Center, I found myself on the top floor of Pokemon Tower with zombies surrounding me. I looked at my party and it had no Pokemon. Then I looked at my trainer card. Then I realized that they infected me, so now I am a zombie. I walked out of the tower and there were no more gates. I traveled all the way to Celadon City, but it was completely deserted. Then I went to Saffron City and it was completely empty as well. I walked up to the sign outside of Silphco and it said, "Out of business." Then I realized that this was about 20 years later and Kanto has been completely deserted. I walked to residents' houses and there were signs on the doors that said, "Moved to issue by force." Now I realized that the only living things in Kanto were zombies. On the night of December 15, 2006, an unlisted lost episode of Family Guy aired on Fox. It was originally produced in 2006 as a Halloween special in season 5, but it was cancelled and shelved because Fox thought it was too disturbing and frightening. They were right. No one knew this episode existed until it aired. The reason for why it randomly aired unannounced is unknown. It was rumored to have been a complete accident. The episode was entirely in black and white, had terrible quality, extremely bad audio, and the animation was done horribly. When it came on, the Family Guy theme song didn't appear. Instead, just black screen and awkward silence. Then after about 30 seconds, a random beating noise started, and soon a message appeared that said, September 8, 2006, Family Guy Episode X, The Black Dawn. The first shot shows the Griffin's kitchen. Lois has finished making breakfast and she told Peter to call the kids. Chris and Stewie come downstairs, but not Meg. In here, everyone seems either very depressed or angry, and Brian oddly sits in the corner of the living room and doesn't talk. When Peter goes upstairs to get Meg, he sees her naked, cutting herself and drinking her own blood. He calls her name, and she starts running towards him and slits his throat. Peter soon dies, and Meg shoves him in a closet. The family hears Peter fall to the floor and rush to see what happened. They see Meg covered in bloody razor blade cuts. Lois asked what happened to her, and then Peter falls out of the closet because Meg didn't do a good job putting him there. The family is in shock, and Lois starts heavily sobbing. Meg then grabs an axe hidden under her bed and chops Lois' head off. She takes a bite out of her head. Stewie and Chris run downstairs to escape. They try to warn Brian, who's still sitting in the corner of the living room. He just ignores them. When they call him again, his head turns all the way around and he has a very creepy smile on his face. He looks possessed. He then tries to attack them. He chases them to the kitchen where Stewie grabs a knife and stabs him in the heart. Chris appears to be upset about what Stewie did, but he tells him he had no choice and quickly forgives him. Meg comes downstairs and chases them outside. They go and hide in the Swanson's house. They tell Joe about the situation. He then tries to deal with her, but she chops him with her axe and does the same to Bonnie. Chris and Stewie escape to their basement. A few days later, they come out and see that nearly everything has been destroyed. They find the newspaper and find that a virus broke out and a zombie apocalypse came. They stand in the middle of the road where there's nothing but dead silence. They see Meg and several other zombies, including Peter and Brian, and the neighbors charging towards them. They also find a chainsaw lying on their front lawn. Stewie grabs it and starts killing zombies with it. Meg is the only one left still alive, but Stewie sees that Chris was killed by the zombies with his face eaten off. Stewie gets distracted by this and then gets killed by Meg. At this point, the quality gets even worse. Meg then takes her axe and accidentally chops her own head off. Then the scene pans out and cuts to static, and the episode ends. The Binding of Isaac is one of my favorite games, due to how strange and oddly addicting it is. All my friends know I love this game, and as soon as the expansion came out, I instantly bought it. However, one of my friends, who spends most of his time just randomly searching stuff on YouTube and Google for something to do, found a fan remake of the game called The Binding of Me.exe. He mentioned it to me and said I should try it as I loved the game so much. He hadn't tried it though, as he didn't really like The Binding of Isaac, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find it. So I asked my friend to email me it so I could play it, and he downloaded it and sent it to me. After checking my email, I found a .rar file, with the name being tbom.rar. I unzipped it and there was an exe file named thebindingofme.exe and a text file. I attempted to open the text file, but all the characters were random letters and symbols, much like if you tried to open a .dll file with Notepad. There was one part right at the bottom that was intelligible though, and it read, "Do not lose your soul." This amused me, as I thought it was just something about losing your soul hearts. If you haven't played The Binding of Isaac, soul hearts are extra health bars. I loaded up the binding of me.exe, and my computer started to slow down, which was really weird, as my computer is a top-of-the-line computer, and nearly nothing would make it slow down. Upon loading, instead of the normal intro sequence, it just cut straight to the character select screen, with only one character selectable. This is where I started to get freaked out, as the character was named James, my name in real life, and the picture was a picture of me. I realized that this game must have been very cleverly programmed, as it most likely found a picture of me in my pictures folder and got my name from Windows. I wasn't really happy with the game searching my computer like that, but I continued nonetheless. I selected James as my character and loaded the game up. The game played very similarly, but I noticed a few differences. In the spot where the hearts normally showed, there was a full amount of soul hearts and only one heart. I actually laughed when I saw this, as normally you only start with 2 hearts, so this would be quite easy. After passing the first floor, nothing much had happened. I took out the boss quite easily and all was good. Then, when I got to the second floor, everything went wrong. Fire started appearing all around my character, and my tears, that's what you use to kill enemies and put out fires, weren't extinguishing the fires. I tried to run, but the door was closed and I couldn't leave. My soul hearts were going away quickly, and soon I was down to 1 soul heart and my original starting heart. I managed to escape the room by blowing up the door and running through the hole. A text box popped up, which I found odd, as the game never communicates to the player. The text box read, "Don't lose your soul, you will regret it." I noticed that in my item box, I now had an item called James' Soul. However, it had no charges, so I couldn't use it. The screen then started to flash and maggots started to work their way into the room I was in. I tried to kill them, but more and more kept coming. I ran away and decided that I had enough of this game. I attempted to close it, but the game wouldn't close. I even went to Task Manager, but I couldn't even force close the game. The game started flashing again, and another text box appeared, saying, "You cannot escape this easily." As a last resort, I turned my computer off at the power. Spooked by the game, I left my PC off for a few days, then decided to turn it on to search something on YouTube. As soon as the computer started, it didn't load Windows. It loaded The Binding of Me. A text box appeared saying, "Welcome back, James. I've missed your soul." I decided to complete the game, as there seemed to be no other way to get my computer back to normal. Maggots continued to seep through the walls as I completed room after room, not taking any damage. After finally getting to where the boss would normally be, Mom, the boss was replaced with James' Soul. The item had disappeared from my inventory, and I now had to fight my own soul. After defeating the final boss, a text box appeared. "Thank you for defeating your own soul. It now belongs to me." I felt a pain in my chest upon reading those words, and I screamed quite loudly. Everything in my room started to fade as I realized I was losing consciousness. I woke up, apparently 2 weeks later in the hospital after having to have a heart transplant just to stay alive. I was in the hospital for 4 weeks, and when I came home, I found my computer had been turned off. I turned my computer on, and Windows loaded up like normal. I opened the folder where The Binding of Me had been, and I found the game was gone, but the text file was still there. Hesitantly, I opened the text file, and it read, "Thanks for your soul, James. You are victim number 628. I will soon be reborn." Then my computer went to blue screen of death with only one word: devil. After the transplant, I am now doing fine. However, my friend who gave me the game hasn't responded. I hope he hasn't played it. Hello, my name is Jacob, and this creepypasta I'm going to tell you something horrible that happened to me. I recently had received a copy of Punch-Out for the Wii for Christmas. Normally, I played the game at my friend's house, and I was pretty good at it too. The day I received Punch-Out for Christmas, I beat the game in just a few hours. So, if you don't know, Punch-Out is a boxing game where you try to KO or TKO your opponent in 3 rounds, and there's 3 circuits you must beat. A few months after I beat the game, I decided I would try to start over and beat the game again. When I got into the world circuit, the last circuit in the game froze for a second and then unfroze. And when it unfroze, it went back to the first fight. At first, I was upset. My progress was just denied from existence. But I also noticed now that in between the rounds the music cut out, distorted, and got slower. I figured maybe it was scratched, dust was on it, or something else like that. I turned off the Wii and got up from my couch. I was pretty pissed off, but when I pushed the power button, it burned my finger a little. I looked back at the TV and I saw a new opponent by the name of Anonymous. I thought maybe this was an Easter egg of some kind and got intrigued. So I picked up my Wii remote and hit the fight button. The fight began as normal. Anonymous looked like a ghostly figure. Its entire body was dark grey and transparent. The eyes seemed like a blood reddish color, and instead of boxing gloves, it had knives in its hands. I knew this game wasn't hacked or anything, because I had this game for quite some time now, and nothing bad or unusual happened. Anonymous stabbed me in the game and I felt, somewhat, a stab in my side in real life, like the game had interacted with me. The round suddenly ended after that. Now normally, in between rounds, your trainer Doc Lewis would give you helpful advice of defeating the opponent, like how sometimes dodging may not be effective. However, this time, Doc had a face like he was terrified. He was completely silent. I somehow passed out, and shortly after woke up. Anonymous was looking right over me, and it said, "Your time has come." I was terrified. Anonymous then stabbed me in the heart. Shortly after, I was rushed to the ER. After quite a long time, involving surgery and such, I was back home. I turned on my Wii and tried loading the game up again. It said on a black screen, KO. And to this day, I still have no clue what or who made my game like that. A terrifying experience for me, and it would certainly be a terrifying experience for others as well. I love Super Smash Bros. It's my favorite game series. I've been playing since Melee. If you don't know what Super Smash Bros. Is, then why are you listening to this, you dummy? Well, this experience didn't at all change my life. I was in the game section at Walmart, because I hate myself. While I was walking, I found a game called Super Smash Bros. Slate. Strangely, I haven't heard of this game. The cover art was Mario standing in front of a concentration camp from the 1940s. It was for the Switch, so I picked it up. When I bought it, the price was $30. Since I was poor, I pulled out my automatic rifle and shot up the place. Then I ran out with the game. I slammed the cartridge into my Switch and the game booted up. The intro and title screen were all the same as Ultimate. That was only one stage, Hell. When I went to the Smash mode, the only characters were Mario, Luigi, and Kirby. I went to Kirby because he's always been my main. The CPU was on random, and the match started. When the match started, the entrance animation was Kirby eating a skull, and the CPU was Peter from Family Guy. His entrance animation was him running over Stewie. I ran over to Peter and pressed A, and when Kirby punched him, blood came out like Mortal Kombat. The blood was hyper-realistic that I almost died. I kept going, Kirby kept punching and blood oozed from every part of his body. It led to Kirby standing on top of Peter, ripping his chest open, eating his organs. I threw up so much that I almost drowned in my own vomit. Then the devil himself appeared and said, I know where you live, Ben. My name's not even Ben, so I turned off the switch and took out the cartridge. I blew it up with the pipe bomb I made in my basement. I looked the game up on the Internet Explorer, and after 10 hours, nothing came up. Thankfully, a few days later, I managed to get a hold of Sakurai himself. We called on Discord, and when I asked him about Super Smash Bros. Slade, his face turned pale. He said no one can know, so we called an orbital strike on my house. I'm now writing this before my house blows up, so whatever you do, play Super Smash Bros. If you want. Just don't play Super Smash Bros. Slade. So, I was playing Fire Emblem 7 on my Chromebook via the use of Wine, a .exe emulator for Linux. When I reached chapter 24, Four Fanged Offense, I was playing Hector mode, by the way. I got the Lloyd version because I dropped Lynn after she joined. However, after beating a chapter, Lloyd, instead of letting Eliwood go, he killed Eliwood. Then, in the prep screen for chapter 25, Crazed Beast, Guides was in my party. What the fuck? Guides and Wallace are mutually exclusive in Eliwood and Hector mode. I went, whatever. I guess I accidentally downloaded a ROM hack. After I was done with battle preps, I deployed Merlinus, and the map started. But the map theme was Softly with Grace, which was a boss theme. And the boss, Pascal, had Softly with Grace as his boss theme, even though I knew it was Rise to the Challenge. I guess the creator of this ROM hack may change it, because he was once one of the Four Fangs. After playing more of it, in chapter 29, Cog of Destiny, Linus' battle quote was just him saying Softly with Grace. His battle quotes with other characters like Nino and Legol, with them saying their lines normally, but Linus would say Softly with Grace, with the other characters saying their lines normally, like Linus said what he says in the actual game. After Cog of Destiny, and in chapter 30, the Berserker, all of the battle preps text was just Softly with Grace, even if the text didn't fit. Even when I started the map, the objective was also just Softly with Grace. As well, Kaim's battle quote was Softly with Grace. Oh yeah, did I mention that every song, every sound effect, everything sound related, just played Softly with Grace after I finished Crazy Beast. Softly with Grace is a really good theme, but hearing it like 1,000 times per chapter is 1,000 times too many. Lastly, in chapter 31, Sands of Time, every single piece of text, dialogue, weapon name, descriptions, everything was just listed as Softly with Grace. Well, except for Denning. Everything he said was, "This is a message from Lord Nurgle. Softly with Grace." I guess that was supposed to be funny. After Sands of Time, I was done with the game for the day. However, in my dream, after I fell asleep, was just me in a black void after falling asleep, with Softly with Grace as background noise. After this for about an hour, I woke up. It was 7:30 AM, but I still heard Softly with Grace, although faintly. However, it grew louder and louder by the hours. I wanted to claw at my own ear and tell someone to turn it off. I thought they'd call me crazy, so I cut off my ears, both of them. Can't hear anything, not even the keys I type, but I still hear that damn song. Even earlier, when I was on my tablet, when I tried to use the Z key, it typed Softly with Grace. I did Softly with Grace, are you fucking kidding me? My Softly with Grace key is typing Softly with Grace. What the Softly with Grace? I Softly with Grace, my Softly with Grace, Softly with Grace, my keys are being replaced with Softly with Grace. With Softly with Grace, Softly with Grace, Softly with Grace, please help me. Softly with Grace, 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 Softly with Grace.